Okay, it looks like we're going live. Now I'm trying to see if it actually went live. Let's see. I think it did. Okay, cool. So I have a couple topics to bring up to start this live stream, which I decided to do randomly about an hour and a half ago. So this is sort of off the cuff in every way that it matters. But recently, let's say the last 4 months, I've been reading a lot more periodicals and a lot more literary journals and just a lot more opinion pieces that people have been putting out there. And looking back at it, I feel, oh, really? I'm having mic issues. Oh, God. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. Let's see if I could just switch the mic. Can you hear this one? Can you hear this one? Is this one halfway decent? Okay, good now. Awesome. So what I was saying before that mic went crazy is I have been reading a lot more literary magazines and periodicals, and I was thinking about why that might be the case that I started doing that a lot more. And I think it has something to do with the fact that I stopped tracking my reading. I think one downside of constantly having reading goals, which is really popular in the reading community, is that you want to make the books read number go big. You want to make it big. And ever since I have completely just forgot about that, I realized I've been reading other things as well. And the one that I kind of wanted to bring up because it's an interesting topic, and I brought it up on my Substack this morning just because that's a way to get me thinking, is I read this piece called One Thesis on Utopia by Ronaldo Walcott in the Brick Literary Journal. And he was kind of making a really good argument for the concept of a utopia. Utopia in music, but you could also look at utopia in fiction. And I posted a quote this morning on my Substack that I'm going to read just because I think it's really cool. And I have a couple responses to it, and I think that could get a discussion going. But it says utopian thinking is marked as a pejorative, as a failure of imagination, appearing to arrive at the state of perfection too quickly, as anti humanist, as not worthy of being taken seriously. And yet, the utopic exists across multiple realms of politics, culture, religion, music, art, literature, film, social organization, economics, and on and on. Its function as another important interpretation of what life could be. And when another account is available to us in consciousness, it becomes available to us in desire, giving us a wherewithal to make action for a different world possible. And I thought that was really interesting. And he there is talking about the works of Jana Brown. And her father apparently wrote a lot of utopian fiction to imagine a different world. And I feel like I've read a lot of dystopian fiction, and I think that makes a lot of sense because I think it would be a lot easier to write dystopian fiction because there's conflict and all of the necessary things that makes fiction a good thing. But so I have some comments here talking about how the reason that maybe we don't ever look at the utopian, although it can help us imagine a better world, is because the people who kind of participate in utopian ideals might be seen as naive. And another person makes an interesting comment that the original Star Trek was meant to be sort of a utopian ideal, but then over time it sort of descended into something else throughout the years as the franchise has gone on. So I obviously think that there is a purpose for dystopian fiction, but I was curious if anyone has read anything that feels in a way like looking towards a better future, and if there's anything that you enjoy about utopian fiction as well. The article actually talks about songs principally, and it's definitely centered around the civil rights movement, and talks about Sam Cooke's "Things Are Gonna Change," or what is that song called? A change is gonna come. Yeah, I've listened to that many times. And just the looking towards a future that can change, maybe even through something bad happening first and then something good happening after. Anyway, I thought all of that was really interesting, and I probably just went on a monologue, but what do you do at the beginning of a live stream but go on a monologue? So there's that. Yes, magazines are great. I and just periodicals in general and on different topics as well. I've been reading science magazines. I read one that was like on AI and I was kind of not impressed with that one. It was like the new scientist AI thing and there was some interesting conversations in there, but it felt a little bit surface level. Like I'm still looking for something to educate myself on AI a little bit more than I am. Uh hello. My normal goal, for books a year is 140 a year, but when the world is on fire, I set no goals. I can usually hit 140 by the end of October, but I doubt I'll hit 80 this year. Yeah, when I was doing goals, I was generally more towards like 80, I think. But I mean, I oftentimes went over 100. I think that there's just been a lot of pressure that's gone off of me once I got rid of goals. And it has allowed me to explore things that oftentimes I wouldn't be exploring as thoroughly because of thinking about stats, which is just, it works for some people. It just ended up really not working for me. We have here that reading guy, Ray Bradbury, wrote a novella called Pillar of Fire, free online, that is utopic, and yet the main character wants to destroy the perfect world for a number of reasons. Bradbury clearly hates the utopia. That's really interesting. And I feel like that there are a lot of sort of dystopian fiction pieces that kind of start with a utopia. And like we find out that the utopia isn't actually all that we thought it could be. And then there starts being problem, which I think is almost the thing about utopic fiction after I was just reading and thinking more about it is there's not much of a story if everything is perfect. So you have to be able to write about a utopia in a way that is still interesting. So oftentimes you have to bring in some level of conflict, at least on some level. There has to be something going on. Charlotte Perkins Gilman wrote an interesting book called Herland about an all-female utopia. That sounds really interesting. I don't know if I've actually read that. Well, I've definitely not read that. I meant I don't know if I've heard of that one. Oh, that's number 2. Moving the Mountain. That sounds interesting. Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading it. I probably should be reading it while I'm doing a live stream. That seems like a lot of books. The 140, it does. That's a lot, Zach. That's impressive. Um, yeah, but I kind of just stopped caring altogether. As long as I'm reading every day, I'm pretty happy with my reading. What is like Wynn's story, Those That Walk Away From? Is that a utopic piece of fiction? Is that what we're talking about? I wouldn't be surprised if she had something in her catalog that was kind of utopian. I like to set fairly low reading goals, 3 to 5 books a year, so that I don't prioritize quantity over quality and I can feel good about accomplishing a goal at the end of the year. Yeah, no, I mean, a goal, I think, and I think this is where it comes to like personalities to some extent. I think a goal can be very good for a lot of people, especially one that is definitely one that can be accomplished and one that you can meet. I think that it's my personality to always take something too far. So I have the wisdom to not engage personally, but I also would never not read books because I didn't have a goal. So I suppose the goal doesn't serve its purpose for me, but it definitely could for other people. A fantastic book with a dystopic utopia is The Core of the Sun by Joanna Sinisalo. It's from Finland, but the utopia is so restrictive, spicy peppers are outlawed because they cause discomfort. You know what? Some of the dystopian from utopian books are the most interesting. And when it comes down to it, I mean, this is kind of deep for booktube, I suppose. It's not that deep, but it's just me talking. Is I don't know how comfortable we would all be in a pure utopia. I think if we could see based off of what we all like to watch online and the conflict we like to watch ensue and the drama that everyone always gets engaged in on any level, I think we all like a little bit of chaos. I don't think any of us would actually enjoy a pure utopia, even though having a vision for the future that is more positive than the one that we currently have can definitely serve a useful purpose. And you see that happen a lot in music and in literature for sure. That reading guy says, "What a world where everyone is without conflict and everyone gets along, be a great world to live in if books are banned." No, definitely not. That's definitely going off what I was just saying there. And I hope I mean in my form of a better world, my form of utopia, I don't think books would be banned, but if a utopia for me would not be a utopia if there was no discussion and if there was no disagreement and if everyone thought the same thing all the time. I think my nerdy utopia would just have people sitting around having conversations about ideas and books constantly, which is maybe not everyone's version. Herland was fantastic. No, I'm looking at it right now and it does look really interesting. I might actually check that out because I have not actually read very much utopian fiction. I do believe the guy who responded to the little quote I put this morning when he said that Star Trek was originally supposed to have a little bit of utopic idealism. But I have not even gotten that much into Star Trek in my life, so I haven't really experienced that either. But I might actually look into the Herland trilogy. That looks pretty cool. Yes, the kid in the basement as scapegoat for the city. The ones who walk away. Is that also utopian? Or are we talking about dystopian here? The ones who walk away. Oh, Ursula K. Le Guin. Some inhabitants of a peaceful kingdom cannot tolerate the act of cruelty that underlines its happiness. Okay, so this looks like it could be one of those utopians that we look at where there's a little bit going on under the surface, which is a really interesting concept. I actually have this Ursula K. Le Guin last interview book that I picked up from the library, and I'm kind of looking forward to reading it next month. There is a booktube event called People April where people read biographies or they learn about people. And that's the whole point of the event is to read biographies, memoirs, autobiographies. This is an interview, this would count. So I might actually get involved and do a bunch of reading for People April. And if you've never heard of it, there are announcement videos on YouTube for it, and you should get involved too. Oh, that, yeah, for the Ursula K. Le Guin. I've been trying to write something that is simultaneously apocalyptic and descending to darkness, but that's also hopeful, building to something light. Not quite utopic, but I found I needed both sides. Yeah, I think that would be like I said, the main challenge with actually writing something that is purely utopic is you have to have something that kind of brings intention. But I also like the idea that you're coming up with here of like the utopian through the dystopian, the finding the better world from going through something apocalyptic and dark first, which I think is a really engaging way to write a sort of perspective of a better world. As a Mexican, outlawing spice seems totally dystopic. I actually like spicy food quite a bit, but I am not a Mexican, but I love spicy food. I get a Thai food level 7 out of 10. I'm at like that level of spice. I like things to be a little hot. Hi, Allison. I discovered your channel last week and your content is fantastic. Thank you. Apart from the very beginning of this live stream where I put on the wrong microphone, I usually try to do things in a way that can be somewhat bearable to watch. False Utopia, yeah. Which I actually think I might pick that up soon. I've been really wanting to read more from Ursula K. Le Guin because I have not read very much from her. And since I'm already thinking about this utopia dystopia divide with fiction because of some of the things I've been encountering, I might get into that sooner rather than later. In a post scarcity society, there would be really no conflict except for personal grievances, correct? I think that would be generally true. What do you think of the idea that a revolution is needed to bring utopia, pain and suffering and sacrifice by tearing down the current system for a better world in the future? That is quite the question, that reading guy. I mean, we see that a lot in history, and I think that there is some wisdom to the idea that power is not usually given, it's usually somewhat taken, but I, as somewhat of a peaceful person, would definitely prefer the most peaceful way possible, but even the most peaceful way possible in a lot of situations will require a little bit of disruption. So that is my response. I'm doing mostly music biographies for people April, the Beatles, David Bowie, and the Rolling Stones. I would actually really enjoy a David Bowie biography. My my favorite one of my favorite movies as a little kid was The Labyrinth with David Bowie. That is quite the movie. In fact, on my Discord, I have like the little worm as like my profile picture right now because that was a very important movie for my childhood, and I think it's kind of a funny worm. But yeah, David Bowie, I would definitely read about, and the Beatles, Rolling Stones, all of that's cool. I don't know if I'll do any music ones. I said, like I said for sure, I'm definitely going to learn a little about Ursula K. Le Guin, and I might read a couple of her books in conjunction with her interview, maybe a little bit of about her, maybe a biography. I also picked up this book when I was on a hike. I talked about this in the video, but I went to a national park on a hike and I picked up a book because that sounds like me. And this is about a woman who moved from the east to the west to become a doctor in the, I believe, 1890s because the west was in desperate need of a doctor, and I think that would be a really interesting story. So I plan to read that as well, and then I'll probably read the book that they actually picked for People April. I'll probably do a video letting people know about it because it's a cool little booktube event, I guess, that's going on. And I think that one's called Blue Stockings. I think that's the one that's been picked, but I'm going to double check on that. And I might add in another one as well. There's so many people I could potentially read about, but those are on my mind at the moment. I'm two-thirds of the way through Mason and Dixon. Very nice. Um, I need to read more really popular literary fiction so that I can get on that conversation. I haven't actually read that yet. Oh, it's a short story? I was all imagining that it was like a full book. Oh, it does say short stories, fiction. It says on the Goodreads for that it says 32 pages. So that is something that I could read literally in like an hour, less than an hour. So I'll definitely read that while I'm reading the Ursula K. Le Guin interview and biography. Very nice and full of milk and honey. Hey, hi, Justine. You've gone live. I want to say hi. Keep up the brilliant work on your fantastic channel. Thank you. I should go live more often if it's just compliments. I have a shirt with a labyrinth worm on it. That's great. I oftentimes would get obsessed with movies as a kid and watch them over and over and over again because, of course, when I was a kid, it was still before we had streaming on demand, so you still had to sort of have access to whatever the movie was, and that was one that I made my parents put on over and over and over again. So I have that movie about memorized, even though it technically should be a little bit before my time, but it was definitely my childhood. Utopia from the ancient Greek, meaning no place. Yeah, okay, because it's non-existent, really. Are you going to read Le Guin's last interview book before you've read any of her novels? No, I'll probably read a couple of her books first, but I kind of like it. I like reading it together because it gives me more. I'm really a little bit of like a type of reader that I like to pull things from multiple things and kind of put it together in my brain. Like I find that fun. It's kind of weird, but I definitely think that's fun. So I sometimes will like reading a couple things that are related at once so that I can make connections. So I will definitely be reading her novels as well with that. We're doing a Le Guin readathon at the moment, and it's been really good. She's amazing. Oh, okay. I was unaware of that one. I need to be more on top of my game as far as what's going on. Want to say hi. Hi. My People April TBR video featured lots of music related books too. Yeah, I need to make a video for People April. I'll probably do that. I'll probably do that soon because it's almost April. I read the first Tales from Earthsea book. It was surprisingly challenging because it's a children's book, but want to read the sequel. Yeah, you know what? I think that we have a different view of children's books in the moment than has existed previously because I feel like any book that is called a children's book that was written 100 years ago or even 50 years ago feels a lot different than what we market as a children's book now. I mean, The Hobbit is a children's book, but I can imagine a lot of young children reading would really struggle with The Hobbit. Very nice. You have the Ziggy Stardust on vinyl. Yeah, People April. I'll do a video for it too, even though I'm definitely not a host, so I'm not trying to like take it over or anything. But it's a booktube event where everyone's going to get together. That a lot of people have booktube channels and a lot of people who watch booktube and read books and want to learn things. They're going to read biographies and autobiographies and memoirs and essays and things about people directly, like real people who've lived. So I am going to participate in that one. One, because I've been reading so much fiction lately and I love fiction, but I also love nonfiction. And this seems to be the perfect opportunity to read a little bit more nonfiction. So I'll be picking up biographies for sure. Like I mentioned, I'll be reading this one about this doctor that I know nothing about. I'm going to be reading the Ursula K. Le Guin one in conjunction with a couple fictional things. I'll be reading a couple novels in April. And then I'll be reading the group one that they pick, which I think is called Blue Stockings, and I don't know much about it. I probably should have before I started talking. And then I'm going to pick one or two more. I'm going to read a ton for it because I think it's a really fun idea. And I haven't really fully participated in any sort of reading events online with this channel yet. When I had a booktube channel in 2021, I participated in a couple, but I haven't really actually visibly participated in any on this channel. And I want to make sure that we're always focusing on books and reading, so I'm going to participate in this one. My current book about a person in Agrippina, the most extraordinary woman of the Roman world by Emma Southin. She wasn't written about many histories because she was a woman. It reads between the lines. Okay, that's cool. That definitely fits the theme of People April as well. You can read about women that history doesn't know much about, reading between the lines. I think there's another really good one, talking about like histories that aren't very popular and reading between the lines about a woman in the Mongol Empire. I don't know if anyone knows that one, but that one could be cool as well if you're looking for like women in history to read about. I don't remember her name. I did at one point. The problem with utopians is that they tend to be naive and idealistic, which overlooks fundamental aspects of human nature and tears down existing structures that we don't know we depend upon. I agree. I definitely think like a pure utopian, no conflict, nothing's going on, nothing we need to worry about is naive. But I guess where I would sort of continue thinking is I feel like the worst of the worst dystopian books are also unrealistic. Like the ones that are just like humanity is depraved and there's nothing redeemable and everyone sucks and there's no hope. I feel like those dystopians are usually by the community kind of seen as like a form of realistic, like a form of realism. And I don't know if I would agree with that either. I think at the extremes, a dystopian is unrealistic too, as well as like a utopian in what you're saying here. That's what I would say to that. What do you think about that reading guy? I read the first four books of Le Guin's Earthsea series and loved the first book, liked the second book, third book was meh, and actively disliked the fourth book. I didn't read the last two books. Got it. Um, you know what? I mean, this is definitely different in a different person, but I kind of struggle with The Wheel of Time for all of its popularity. I don't feel like all of those books are equally good, and I have not read most of them because of that. Hi, I'm so happy I found your channel. I was insecure because I tend to make my arguments a whole ass essay, and seeing your videos makes me more confident to start my own channel sometime soon. Yeah, I think I could have a side of me that is insecure about talking. I think especially live streams bring it up a lot because I don't know how to pronounce a lot of things and I could be unfamiliar with some things. But I think that to just getting online and talking honestly and trying to show how you're thinking can still be a good thing. At the moment, I feel like it's a good thing. So I recommend it. And no, I don't think you have to arrive at a conclusion to talk about something. And I feel like I've sort of modeled that a little bit because there are tons of times where I am at this point making videos or writing things about things I don't have clear conclusions for, but I don't think you have to always have a clear conclusion in order to start a conversation or get people talking. And you can always change your mind later. So that's the thing about the internet though, is once you've said something once, there is a record that you said it, and then people can go back and watch a video you made 8 months ago as if you made it yesterday. And I do think that my opinions specifically always change, and that is the one thing I don't like about it is If you watch me a year ago, which you can't because I don't have a video a year old on my channel yet, it might not be the same thing I would say right now. And I think we should normalize changing our minds anyway, but it can be hard when it's all set in stone. So you're reacting to someone else here that they're okay, but I'm interested in this too, so I'll read it out. The Rolling Stones biography I'm going to read is Bob Spitz. It's being released in late April. Oh, okay, so I wonder, can you get it? Oh, you said in April. Okay, so you can get it by People April. Maybe I should also read a music one. I'm kind of interested in some music. Afro Ben biographies, two great ones by Maureen Duffy and Janet Todd. Good recommendations. Are you dissing my beloved 1984? No, I wouldn't. I think that 19. I haven't read 1984 since I was like 17, so I feel like my analysis of it at the moment is from a both a teenage brain of my teenage brain combined with a bunch of quotes that people put on the internet constantly. And from those reference points, I have a positive view of 1984 as far as like showing what can happen. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I feel like there would be, I mean, maybe this is me being a little bit naive and idealistic, but I feel like if you were to get to a really dark dystopian time, I hope that people would push back and get it back to a little bit of an equilibrium. Maybe it would be more likely for us to fall into a dystopia than for us to achieve a utopia. I can definitely concede that, but I feel like the extremes of either side would eventually be corrected, or we wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe I'm wrong. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. More suggestions here. In fact, maybe I'll do another a poll. Maybe I'll do like I did a poll at the beginning of this month for a book that I could read and review. Maybe I'll have you guys choose a biography for me so that I read things outside of what I'm already aware of, which I think is always a good thing to do. In fact, I'm reading the book that was chosen right now. It's Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. And you know, there's actually a lot of good material in that, so I'm excited. I'll probably put up a review for that sometime next week, is my guess. Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin is a good utopian. It is naive in a way, but it makes sense and it's very short. Interesting. I really liked the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I read that in my early 20s. So I would definitely read more from her. I also had a duology from her on my shelf at one point, but I never actually read it. So I've only ever read the Broken Earth trilogy by her. For April, for April, I'm gonna go for a hunker called Master of the Senate by Robert Caro. Cool. Oh, chunker. I just read it as if it was a legitimate word because I knew what you meant, and sometimes it's more important to know what someone means than to have the exact word. A good dystopian book creates a world that is plausible, even if it's unlikely. 1984 is brilliant, even if something like it will probably never happen. Or Orwell was a great thinker. Yeah, I'm not going to go against it. Like I said, everything that I have in my mind for 1984, which is based off of a reading when I was 17 plus internet quotes, is positive. I tend to think that there can be really good dystopian fiction. And by opening this discussion with saying like, oh, should we have more utopian fiction? I'm not saying anything against dystopian. I think that both are kind of interesting. And I mean, when I was a teenager, that's when the Hunger Games blew up, which you know is for teenagers. But that was I really enjoyed that as a 13-year-old. And then one day, as a young adult, I was in the airport and someone abandoned a copy of The Handmaid's Tale, and I read that too. So I've read I'm way more than I'm saying right now, but I've read a lot of dystopian. And I think what got me thinking about the utopian is both I read an opinion piece on like the purpose behind having utopian fiction. And then when I read it, I was like, I feel like I've only ever read dystopian stuff, which makes sense because I feel like it'd be much easier to write and it's definitely easy to imagine humanity sort of falling into something just like dystopian. And it's a lot harder to imagine people actually coming together and creating a better world sometimes as depressing as that commentary might be. The Keith Richard autobiography is good. What kind of music do you listen to? So I read a lot more than I listen to music, so I will admit that right now. I have a lot of nostalgia for like music that was popular in the early 2000s just because that puts me back into a place where I was a kid and you know happy and the world feels simpler. But I would probably say my number one thing that I enjoy just because I like to dissect lyrics and meaning is folk music. I like music that has uh, something to it where you could almost read it as if it were poetry and sort of kind of get the meaning from the musician and what they're saying. So that's probably what I lean towards, but I have listened to a lot in my life because I have a very large family and they all have different tastes. So I've listened to probably a little bit of every genre throughout my life. The origin of the essay was an exploration of a topic, not necessarily a complete finished take on it. Humanity has far too many follies to achieve utopia, I believe. I agree too. I don't think it would be achieved. That doesn't mean that we can't be inspired to achieve something that may resemble utopia, if that makes any sense. Yes, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that um, envisioning what could happen is positive. I mean, if we think about political movements, obviously the article that I based that discussion on was about the civil rights. And obviously someone who says something like Martin Luther King Jr., like I have a dream, does a lot. Or the music that was looking towards a positive future, maybe after some rough times, definitely inspired a lot of people. And I think the purpose of anything that's maybe utopian is more to inspire and to give a sense of a future that might be better. But I don't think that it would be realistic to ever imagine us in reality achieving a perfect world, but doesn't mean it doesn't have a purpose, I suppose, is what I think. Rome after the fall of the Republic certainly sounds like living in a dystopia. Same with Nazi Germany. History is full of dystopias. True, true. But they eventually get corrected. So, I mean, I guess in a lot of dystopian fiction, a lot of them end up getting corrected. Sometimes they don't. Um, I guess there's like a push and pull between our worst and best parts of ourselves and of us as a group. I don't feel comfortable with musician books because we all know. Oh no, I'm not going to say that out loud. But yeah, I mean, when people are famous, sometimes they don't always do the best things. Read Orwell's The Mind at the End of Its Tether. I will look into it. I could definitely read more Orwell. Probably I'll reread 1984 at some point. I think Wally did a good job illustrating what humans will become, and we're seeing it, unfortunately. You okay? This is absolutely insane, and I know Wally is super popular. I've never seen Wally. I haven't actually seen that, so I don't know. I mean, I know that there's like in the movie there's like humans that don't do very much. Is that true? Like they just kind of sit around and they don't have to really do very much, so they leave a lot to robots, which I think is definitely a future that could be somewhat true. I should definitely watch a basic cultural touchstone like Wally eventually. Howdy, folks. What you're saying? Okay, what you said about about finding the Handmaid's Tale made me wonder. What is the strangest way you happened upon a book? I think that might be it. Just like having books that are clearly abandoned and discarded in public with no one likely coming back to it. And I think an airport is the best way for that to possibly happen because if someone leaves a book sitting around, they are probably not coming back for it. So there's that. I'm a 90s kid, so I'm also partial to early 2000s music. I suppose I'm a 90s kid. Uh, I don't have very many memories from the 90s, but I have a lot of memories from the 2000s. A pure utopian novel would inevitably feel tongue in cheek or facetious no matter if the author intends it. Yeah, um, that's possible. Like I said, I haven't actually engaged with too much of it because it's so rare and so few people do it. I am curious about the original intent of the first run of Star Trek because I imagine that was not going to be purely utopian. If anyone knows very much about that, that would be interesting. But I don't think it could just, I mean, it's not a story if everyone's just sitting around in a heaven like experience. So it has to have something going on. But or obviously the dystopian through the utopian is very popular, but I don't know. I still think that there has to be something there, but I'm good with saying I don't know because I haven't actually experienced very much of it, and it's more of a thought experiment of how would you successfully do it, and would it be potentially interesting to read. And I think you're right that there are a lot of pitfalls to writing a book that is meant to be more on the utopian side of the whatever. I think dystopia is nothing else than a critical view of our reality. For a stable utopia, you almost need a hidden layer that's keeping it managed without those in the utopian knowing, precisely because of the naivety. Life always gets complex, so it's always false. Yeah, that kind of makes me think of like the utilitarian thought experiments of imagine there is a perfect utopia, but imagine that it all relies on like um, trapping a little girl in a basement somewhere in a bad life. And um, with all those thought experiments, I'm not meant to sit here and actually give an opinion on it, but it always comes down to oftentimes when things are really good, there could be some things under the hood, and that's definitely true. It doesn't mean that wanting good things to happen is bad, but oftentimes a perfect utopia probably would have some things um, holding it up. We could have a utopia. We just need to genetically modify our brains, mostly to shrink the fear-based reactionary parts. So that would be an interesting science fiction experiment to try to reach utopia through human modification. Sounds like that could be a book that starts in a utopian sense and quickly turns into a dystopia. But maybe it's just a utopia. Who knows? Maybe there's an end game where everything is good. Who knows? Wall-E is amazing. I watched it in the theater as a kid. I almost thought that that said I watched it as a theater kid, which would have changed the meaning. But I think you know what it is. I think Wall-E came out to right when I was at the age of I'm too old for Disney movies, but before the age of like older appreciation for Disney movies. So because it was like perfectly in the age of like me trying to prove that I was older, but like before I could experience it as an adult and be like, "Oh, that's cool." I just never watched it. It just completely fell through the cracks, and that's unfortunate because I should probably know what goes on in that movie because it's so popular. Yeah, I'll get to it. I have a question. Can you name a couple of auto-buy authors that are writing right now? Ooh, I don't know. I feel like sorry that my phone keeps going off. I probably should have turned it off. I don't know because I feel like I don't read a lot of repeats from the same author. And when I have, I could oftentimes be like, "That book was great, and that book sucked," which is an interesting thing. It's almost like I'm not loyal to the author, but more interested by the idea. Like one that's really a popular author that a lot of fantasy readers enjoy is Naomi Novik, and I really thought her Uprooted was pretty good, and I liked her Spinning Silver. Is if you like that sort of um, Eastern European flavored fantasy based stuff. But then her A Deadly Education that everyone liked, for example, I thought was really bad. I did not like that book at all. And that's just an example of an author where I've read several books and like sometimes it's like, oh yeah, this one was good and this one was really bad. So I feel like if I think about every single author that I've read multiple books from, I have books I like and books I don't like. Like the same thing could be said about any of the other popular authors that I've read multiple books for, like Brandon Sanderson or something. Um, yeah, no, I think a lot of the best books I've ever read are like the only books I've ever read from the author, but that is probably a little bit my youth speaking because I haven't read like the entire catalog of anybody. I found a copy of Game of Thrones in a dorm trash can. I opened it, and every third word had been physically cut out of it. Oh no, I wonder why. Were you like at a really religious school or something where people would be trying to take out the profanity? I was a really religious kid, and I remember I came upon a copy of the Kama Sutra, like the Indian book about like sensual stuff, like sex and stuff. And I was like so appalled that I think I threw that book in the trash can. And later on, when I was older, I was like, huh, the tendency to believe in the destruction of books because of having some idea of purity is very interesting. I fell into that a little bit too, but I don't know why anyone would cut out every third word of Game of Thrones. I found an unabridged copy of Dracula in my third grade school library, even though I thought it was strange, but I loved reading it. Nice. You're younger than me if you do not remember the 90s. Yeah, I probably am younger than you. I don't remember the 90s. Yeah, I remember the 2000s. Um, Dracula is one of my favorites, even though I did just finish my thesis last year on Frankenstein. I hope the trash can was relatively clean. You know what's funny is my reaction to that had nothing to do with the trash can. I was like, "Oh yeah, they found it in the trash can. That's normal. That didn't even compute as being weird to me." That might say something about me. I don't know if I like what it says. What is a nostalgic movie from your childhood? Well, I said Labyrinth definitely counts, but oh my gosh, what is that? There's a Pete's Dragon, the Disney movie. When is that even from? Uh, I feel like Pete's Dragon was another one I watched a lot. Is that the name of it? Pete's Dragon movie? Not that one. Not the 2016 one. They did it. They redid it in 2016. I'm talking about the older one. The when was the original one? I'm gonna put original. 1977 Pete's Dragon. That got put on a lot for me. And Bedknobs and Broomsticks. I don't know when that's from. Which is also from 1971. Which you can tell that my parents decided what I was watching, and they were like, "She is going to like these movies, and we're not going to show her anything of the stuff that's not completely true. They did, but I got Peace Dragons, Labyrinth, Bedknobs, and Broomsticks. I also really loved The Neverending Story. And yeah, they were definitely sort of putting in front of me what they liked, which having a kid and doing that is probably the best way to watch things that you don't actively dislike. I did probably drive them crazy with Dragon Tales though. That was on PBS when I was a kid, and it's like, two little kids go into like Dragon World and talk to the dragons. And that was probably not something that they picked or controlled, and I got obsessed with that when I was about 4 years old, 5 years old. So there was that too. I think I answered that pretty thoroughly. Okay. A utopian novel should be character based, like Musil's The Man Without Qualities or Man's Magic Mountains. Yeah, that would make sense as focusing on the characters, whereas like a dystopian will oftentimes focus on the structures and the society and what's wrong. A utopian to actually work would probably have to focus pretty heavily on the people in the utopia. Hot take, I'm sure I want a utopia. You know what? It's funny that that shouldn't be much of a hot take, except everyone is just always so, what's the word? They just don't believe that it can exist, so they're skeptical of it. So it makes it a hot take. Somehow I have a feeling that the best books come from pick one human trait and take it to the max. Yeah, you know what? I'm just thinking through the pick one trait and take it to the max. I think that a lot of the best dystopia books probably do come from that. Is they take one idea, like if we're talking about that reading guys 1984, like censorship and surveillance, and they take it to the max, and it makes something really compelling because we see some truth in it because there are tendencies that are like that, and then you just take it to the extreme, and you could probably do that with a lot of concepts. First steps towards utopia is to get everyone off social media. And here we are on YouTube Live, so there's that. Do we need to get off too? I mean, there's always a debate about whether YouTube is social media or not. I definitely think it falls for a lot of the same things that social media does. I guess I'm sort of on the mindset that it's the better one, and if you're going to be on one, you might as well choose YouTube. But they all kind of act the same way and bring out the same things in us. I'm the complete opposite of a theater kid. The very thought scares me. That's why I'm sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. That's why when I read your original comment, I was because I've watched a couple of that reading guy's videos, and he talks about how one of his goals of his channel is to work on public speaking so that he can talk about his ideas and so that he can enter conversations and talk about books and work on that through to speaking to a camera. So I was trying to imagine him as a theater kid. I couldn't see it. So now I know for sure that that was not the thing. You saw Wally in the theater. You are not a theater kid. Got it. There's probably a fine line between what would realistically become dystopia. I think that maybe the ending of this. Oh, okay, dystopia and utopia. Okay, cool. There's probably a fine line between what would realistically become a dystopia and a utopia. Yeah, no, I think that's why we keep talking about like the dystopia through the utopia. That oftentimes that's how a lot of books start. Is you think something's perfect, like the that YA book that is it Neil Shusterman that wrote it? The Scythe trilogy? Is that a trilogy? Where it's like no one dies, but there has to be these group of people who basically kill people off so that there's not overpopulation. So that's sort of one of those fine line things of between the two, and I think that that is explored a lot in fiction, even in YA fiction. Herman Hesse's The Glass Bead Game takes place in a utopian society. Huh, that sounds interesting. I'm doing the thing where I am in the middle of a live stream and I should be constantly talking and entertaining all of you, even though that's basically not my main goal. I just like to explore ideas. And here I am learning about the glass bead game by myself. The final novel, is that the final novel? Oh, from the author. The Glass Bead Game is a fascinating tale of the complexity of modern life as well as classic modern literature. Set in the 23rd century. Oh, so we're going in the future. When was this written? Oh, written in 1943. I always love to look at when books are written because you know that whatever they came up with in 1943 for being the 23rd century is going to be a lot different than what we would come up with now for being the 23rd century. So, anyway, set in the 23rd century, The Glass Bead Game is the story of Joseph Knecht, who had been raised in Castalia, the remote place a society has provided for the intellectual elites to grow and flourish. Since his childhood, he has been mastering the glass bead game, which requires a synthesis of aesthetics and philosophy, which he achieves in adulthood, becoming a magister Luddy. Master of the Okay, I'm reading that. I mean, I don't really know what's going on in that description, but it was enough to know that I'd be interested in reading it. So I think I'm going to be reading that one. Um, do you keep your phone notifications on when you sit down and read? That reading guide, did you not read my last Substack post? You're always liking those. I'm just kidding. I just got a new phone. So I actually posted like this really dumb piece on Substack about when I was sitting there waiting for my phone and how impatient I was and how impatient of a person I am. But it did a lot less than a lot of my essays do, really, but it just kind of showed that impatience that we all go through and that I was sitting through in that moment. So I have a brand new phone that I had to sit and wait for in the middle of the day and give the delivery guy a signature for. I always hate when they're like, you have to be home at noon on a Thursday, and that's like the option. So I was sitting at home waiting for this, and I just barely got it yesterday, maybe at like 4 or something. So it's only been like a day, and I haven't set it up exactly how I want it to be set up yet. Usually my phone is silent and it doesn't bother me for anything, but I clearly haven't gotten the settings right yet. So that is what's going on there. No, I'm against notifications. Keep your notifications off, except for things that are really vitally important, and I don't even know what that would be. Um, Hopefully, if anyone that I love dearly is in an emergency, they'll call 911 if they can't immediately get hold of me. I mean, I want to be available, but being tied to your phone, there's just a downside to that. This may cause some controversy, but which authors do you feel are overrated? Oh my. Um, Honestly, anything that gets hyped too much is overrated because there are so many good books out there. I mean, it's funny because so many people comment on the fact that I have those Brandon Sanderson books in the background of my videos. And they're always like, "Oh, you're talking about how you like good literature, but there you are with those Brandon Sanderson tomes behind you. Obviously, you don't have the elite taste." To which I say that's so silly. People can like multiple genres, and that's always been a thing. But lately, I've been starting to think he's a little bit overrated. I really did enjoy the Mistborn trilogy, and I did enjoy the first couple books of his Stormlight Archive, but the last couple books don't seem to be as good as the first couple books. And I almost wonder, and this is obviously a normal take, and a lot of people have this take. He is he has the same background as me. Actually, we both come from a Mormon background, and not that that means that we're exactly the same or anything, but in that background, you are taught to be productive all the time. And that's kind of how I've been doing this, to be completely honest, is I'm ex-Mormon now, but I was so instilled with productivity and not a second of like not doing something important or not doing something that feels real, like always being productive, that it can be overdone sometimes. And I almost wonder if he is writing too many books, if that makes sense. And it's funny because he always brings out like the secret projects and everything, and he's like, "Here's another 5 books," and I'm like, I totally get where he's coming from because I had the same thing instilled in me. But being able to just like maybe slow down and write fewer so that they're all the same quality, that is controversial. I shouldn't have said that, but I like him. But people probably think I like him more than I do because they're in the background of my videos. I like him enough. I think a lot of them are good, but they're not all equally good. Just join the chat, so this may have been said. Doesn't utopian mean no place? Yes, someone else did say that. Uh, I wish I had really cool commentary for utopia meaning no place. I guess, it means that we can't achieve it. It's no place is utopic. But that is all I have to say. I'm not, I can't have I don't have a super deep thing to say about it. I don't think I've ever seen Wally sober. Well, I've never seen it at all. I think I was 16 when it came out and into all kinds of stuff. Oh no, you weren't sober at 16? Well, hopefully you turned out okay. I'm sure you did. You always have a lot of interesting things that you comment, so it seems like you turned out intelligent at least. My school was technically Quaker, but I don't think religion had anything to do with it. Every third word, they were building a found poem. Oh, okay. I guess I've just kind of it was ignorant to that, so I imagined that was, sometimes you take your life experience and you try to paste it onto something else that's completely unrelated. And I was like, if I found a Game of Thrones in my college in a dorm room and it was every third word was taken out, I would assume someone was like trying to that would make no sense. I guess you would do like the whiteout marker because there would I went to Brigham Young University in Utah, which is a religious school, and I could imagine someone trying to sanitize Game of Thrones to make it okay to read in the same way that someone might use something like VidAngel. And I'm live right now, so I'm off the cuff. But yeah, no, that makes sense. Making a poem out of it. That's fascinating. Pete's Dragon was my jam. That the very beginning of that movie, a bunch of people, like a bunch of like the bad guys, like pop out. And when I was young, I would always get terrified. I would beg for it every single day, but as soon as they sort of popped out from behind a rock or something, I freaked out. I was terrified of the beginning of that movie, but I loved it. I was born in '62. My YA novels were Lovecraft, Robert Howard, and Edgar Rice Burroughs. That's definitely very different from the YA novels I read in 2010. That's probably when I was reading YA novels. 2010, 2015. Classic films, Pete's Dragons, Labyrinth, Never Ending Story, fantastic. And I didn't actually really watch Roger Rabbit as a kid. I did watch that little mouse. Is it like that little immigrant mouse? Does anyone know what that is? Like somewhere out there. That was also popular enough when I was a kid. Never Ending Story has some dramatic moments in it. Yes, I love that movie, and it does have some pretty. I think that's why I liked a lot of these stories, is they had a very clear narrative. There were very dramatic moments, and if you're in a period of time where you're rewatching the same movies over and over again, those are definitely the ones that are going to stand out. What do you think about parents who try to force ideas or taste onto their kids? Is it wrong when bookish parents try to make their kids like reading? No, it is not wrong to try to get your kid to read, but if you push too hard, you might do the opposite. So I guess there's that. But at the same time, I have been a teacher, which I've talked about many times, but I have not been a parent. So I am not an expert on parenting. I think that having an active hand in your child's life, though, is a good thing. And I think reading is a good thing too. Maybe, I guess, the what I would tend to think is like forcing them to read any particular book is probably going to be tough, but getting them to read what they're interested in will likely have a good outcome most of the time. I've read all of Stephen King except for his newest Hansel and Gretel book because I refuse to pay full price for a novella. Yeah, there is something to how expensive everything is, even and sometimes the price doesn't even go down when the book is only 200 pages. And I feel like the idea was when you get a giant book, you pay a premium, but page for page, like the giant books are usually cheaper than the short little novellas. I oftentimes will get those as ebooks because of the same thing. I see YouTube as infotainment rather than social media. Yeah, there's an argument for that. But I mean, at this moment in time, this feels social media-esque. I mean, we're literally talking, we're going through comments, I don't know. I don't feel like any social media feels like social media anymore, to be completely honest. I've talked about this in videos before, but when I was a teenager, social media, when you opened Instagram and you saw everyone that you knew, you didn't see influencers. I saw like the girl that I had fourth period science with, and that's just not what it is anymore. So I guess I would say the worst parts of TikTok and Instagram maybe aren't as bad on YouTube, but they're shorts and everything too. So I don't know. I don't know if having any sort of um, elitism because a platform is accurate, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Oh, can you guys not hear me? Okay, everyone else is still saying we're just gonna have to deal with whatever it is right now because the first microphone didn't work, and this one apparently is working enough that you have comments. So we will look into a better microphone in the future if that's the case. But there's nothing that we can do about it today. I would probably be reading right now if it wasn't on here, so I'm part of the problem. Yeah, no, I didn't mean to put this live stream to get into Friday night reading time. Oh no, but it's a positive thing to engage with other people too, I guess. And as an insane introvert, which you might not believe, since I get online and post things, I find some value in BookTube. As far as I know, studies show YouTube is the only social media site that improves mental health and happiness. Does it really? See, that's why I'm saying like on the surface level, like when I'm just thinking through things, I wonder if there's any sort of benefit to being elitist about the platform you choose. But if there's actual studies and data that says that YouTube has a net positive and other places have a net negative and it's believable and the methods used were good, then I will get totally onto that wagon because I love YouTube compared to everything else. So I would be much more willing to believe that than something else, but I guess I'll look into that. Good, yeah. How big is your family? You mentioned you have a large family. Mormon families tend to be big, right? Yes. So my dad has six siblings, five brothers and one sister, and my mom has more than that. So very large extended family. As far as like my nuclear family, if you want to call it that, my parents are divorced and my dad has two other kids and my mom has one other kid. So my actual like family, like nuclear family, small family is not that big compared to my extended family, but my extended family is huge. I have lots of aunts, lots of uncles, and lots of cousins. What if utopia becomes some kind of uniformity that resembles dystopia? That's why, yeah, I guess like if you have a vision for utopia and it turns into everyone acting the same all the time and becoming sort of robotic, I guess to me that would be dystopia. That wouldn't be utopia anymore. The world in The Giver was basically a utopia, but even that felt kind of sinister. Oh, I did read The Giver when The Giver was my first Goodreads review ever. I probably reviewed it on Goodreads when I was like 11, and I thought that I was such a cute little. I thought I was such. Oh, I was probably just cute. That's what I'm saying now. But I thought I was such a serious little reviewer, writing down my thoughts about The Giver to post online with the picture and everything. So there's some nostalgia there for me. But yeah, there is definitely what you can argue to be a utopia for that. I just recently watched like the movie they did for The Giver maybe a year ago, and it reminded me a lot about that book, obviously, because it is the movie. 1984 is based on Stalin's USSR, and in my opinion, Orwell was rather mild on the topic. 1930s in the USSR were much worse. I recommend Black on Red for Americans. Okay. You know what? That's fair. I mean, I've read some stuff too. And I guess this is where like I'm not going to hold on to an idea just because I say it out loud once. Like I've read a lot of history books and biographies, memoirs with like the Chinese Cultural Revolution as well. And no, some moments of human history were pretty intense and pretty dystopian. So I guess it would like the conversation evolves to me saying you are all right. Dystopian is way more likely to happen. Dystopia is way more likely to happen than a utopia. I guess it's just also I still feel like there is a purpose for thinking about the good and thinking towards the future in a positive way. But as far as what would actually happen in reality, there has been moments of human dystopia that we can cite throughout all of history and in many different cultures. The Giver is brilliant. Yes, I liked The Giver. Utopia as a word didn't exist before the novel. Doesn't surprise me. Gulliver's Travels explores quite a few different types of civilizations. The last one is pretty utopian. You know what? I've never read all of Gulliver's Travels, and I think that's a pretty common experience. I've read like excerpts from Gulliver's Travels, and I think I might have even read an abridged copy at one point, but I think there would probably be value to reading all of it. So I might do that in the future. And I really love the the thought experiments of looking at different civilizations. I know that it was like a silly show, but the Seth MacFarlane's what is that called, Orville or whatnot? I like binged that one weekend, and it was fun to watch them kind of descend on different worlds that had sort of different cultures and different things and different thought experiments. It's kind of the same way I like a lot of like the sci-fi thought experiment stuff that's popular, like Black Mirror or whatnot. It's interesting just to explore an idea for a limited amount of time and then explore another idea. What do you think about the use of AI in writing? I don't like the use of AI in writing. I think that when it comes to art and literature and the humanities, there's something worthwhile about it being human. Now, could there be a good usage for an AI outside of that? Yes, probably. Obviously, they need to come up with a solution for the amount of resources AI uses, but could there be a potential, even with just I don't know, technology and science? There's definitely probably uses for AI, but I don't think that we need novels written by AI when we could just read the ones written by humans. I feel like that's the wrong implementation of it. But I guess we'll see what happens as time goes on. I was gonna read your latest post, but I'm teaching full time at the moment, so my time is limited. I haven't been reading much for fun either. Oh no, are you on your wait? I think you said you were doing your practicum, or are you student teaching? I don't know how it works in Canada. It might even be different. But no, I was kidding about you not reading that last post. I was not serious. But yeah, I just got a new phone and my settings are way off and it's beeping at me and it needs to stop. I'll be teaching Macbeth to a bunch of grade 11s next week, so wish me luck. Good luck. My first teaching gig was um, psychology and government. I never taught anything English related. Overrated Hemingway. Wow, you are bringing the controversy here. Macbeth is fantastic. Good luck. Yes, good luck. More agreement. Wow, Hemingway is overrated. Hemingway, oh wow, everyone's agreeing here. Hemingway is definitely overrated. Stephen King and Fitzgerald can be thrown in there. Yeah, you know what? Um, I like Hemingway and Fitzgerald enough. Overrated, probably, I guess, if we were just to say that those are names that everyone knows and a lot of people have read. Stephen King also probably, but I mean, I feel like you could say that about almost any author that has had a lot of fame and influence. I do think with Stephen King, like he's just written so much. It's almost like um brute force to fame. But he's an idea man. Like he comes up with really interesting ideas and I think people love him for that. And I would agree with that idea that Stephen King is just a visionary when it comes to what he comes up with, but that doesn't mean that the execution of every single book is at the same level, and that doesn't mean that they're all five-star reads for a reader online term. You should put a shelf full of romantasy in your video background just to troll the snobs who watch your channel. You know what? I thought about that, but I thought that I already sort of had that going on with the books that were in the background. Um, Yeah, no, I mean, there's this whole idea that people seem to have on BookTube that you should judge the person and their ability to think and their ability to like talk through things and give book reviews and all that based off what they have in the background. And I couldn't disagree with that idea more. I don't think the background should really matter at all. I should be able to talk about something with the blank white wall behind me. And if what I said is interesting to you, good enough. ugh, I can't get on the bandwagon of caring what people visually show when it comes to videos about discussions and books. I just don't care. You can have, I don't know, monster smut behind you, and if you are saying something interesting, I'll still listen. Hemingway is definitely not overrated. That's a hill I'm willing to die on. Like I said, I wasn't saying it. I wasn't saying that one. I said Brandon Sanderson for the answer. Hemingway, I haven't read as many as probably all of you have. I've only read one or two of Hemingway, but I think that any author that has gotten that much popularity will have people saying that over time. Hatchet Publishing just pulled a book that the New York Times reported was LLM influenced. Oh, it's so hard to know when something is written by AI or influenced by AI. I would think that I could have the confidence to tell, but you know that a lot of us actually probably couldn't in some genres and some styles of writing. It's scary because I would much rather have things written by a human. I definitely agree with the ideas of labeling AI written works. Maybe not making it illegal, people can put it out, but if you put it out, let us know so that the people who don't want to read it don't have to. It was so hard too as a teacher, actually being able to accurately tell when students used AI. Well, I'm lying because a lot of my students weren't really good writers. So if they went from not being able to put together three sentences to giving me an AI written essay, it was pretty easy. But it just, having to have some sort of, I don't know, witch hunt for lack of a better term is just, oh, I just don't like it. I don't like it. I wish that we could just be honest. Aside from the novel Utopia, I can't recall other utopian fiction. There's the movie Things to Come. Oh man, I didn't even realize how far behind the chat I was. Dang. Okay. I like the Stephen King I read. I read, and I did love The Great Gatsby. I liked The Great Gatsby too, and there are several Stephen King books I've read that I enjoyed. I did like some of his really popular ones, like Pet Cemetery. But when I have heard people describe him and critique him for being more of like the idea generator, I can see where they're coming from. That's all I have to say about that. Macbeth is fantastic. I call Brandon Sanderson Banjo Sandman because he's annoying and puts me to sleep. It feels like a plot spreadsheet with filler to make it appear as a natural story, but it's highly marketable trash. I wouldn't go that far, but I would definitely believe that he uses an outline for writing that he sticks to. Sanderson is definitely the fully realized endgame of fantasy's downward spiral. I don't know. I don't like I said, I don't think I go that far for any of them. I've liked a couple of his books, but he might just be putting out too much. That might be my opinion on that. I should have been more made I need help with productivity skills. Not all of them can do that, but once you have a mission behind you, which is 16 hours of work a day when you're 19, it's hard to get past that. So I don't know. I guess I know a lot of really productive Mormons. I mean, if you think about fantasy authors or sci-fi authors or like there's or even like writers or not writers, I mean songwriters, there's a disproportionate amount of Mormons. Like Brandon Sanderson and the guy who wrote Ender's Game and Ender's Game? Oh my gosh, I've read that book. Is that what it's called? And a lot of like the like Imagine Dragons lead singer was Mormon. Like there's a lot. It's more than it should be for the amount of people who are. But yeah, I think it has everything to do with just being instilled with productivity above everything else. That's the good thing about being in the seventh decade of life. Plenty of experience. Overrated author. I feel like I can say this now as an ex fan, but Neil Gaiman. I loved his comic book stuff, but I didn't like any of his novels. Coraline was a better movie. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of controversy with Neil Gaiman. I think I liked his novels when I read them because they felt, in a way, relaxing and like it felt like I was a child listening to a story, if that makes sense. So I liked his books for that. But obviously, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the author right now. An American Tale, yes, that's the little immigrant mouse. I used to watch those as well, and that might have been more '90s than all the other stuff that my parents put on. Yeah, the mouse movie, American Tail. Oh, okay. I never read Gaiman, but is he bad at writing or bad as a person? I don't like the idea of confusing those things. No, I don't think he is bad at writing. I wouldn't say that. Um, he was always seen. He lives in upstate New York, and I have a lot of family that lives in upstate New York, and they were actually sort of in the same vicinity of him to where they could point out where he had a house there. It was near Woodstock. And he was just always seen as an eccentric, like always. But there's a difference between being eccentric and doing things that are wrong. And if he got into doing things that are wrong, I do not think that is a positive thing for him as a person, but I don't think that impacts how good of a writer he was. And I think that his writing was so popular because of what I said. I think every time I read a Neil Gaiman book, it felt like I was a little kid listening to a story, and it was creative, interesting ideas, which makes sense from sort of an eccentric. Yeah, I learned how to drink responsibly by the time I was 17. Oh, okay, so it was 16 to 17. That was your time of figuring it out, and got everything out of my system early. I'm fairly boring now. Gaiman is overpraised as a writer, and it doesn't help that he's a terrible person as well. I can see how someone could think that. I guess like I said, I always enjoyed his fiction for the simplicity, so I guess that is a way of being overpraised in the minds of others. The best way to get your kids to read is to let them see you reading. I think I would agree with that. I think I've talked to parents before who have asked about getting their kids into reading, and I've asked them what they like to read, and they don't have an answer. And I think that that can definitely not have the results that you're looking for. My parents maybe didn't read 80 plus books a year like I tend to like to do now as a crazy person, but they were constant readers. I think I mentioned in a video, my dad read a lot of nonfiction, and he would oftentimes read the first three chapters of a book and then put it down and read another one and then go back. He'd be one of those people who had like seven books going at once. So there was always a book on a surface, and that normalized books being around to me, and I think that was positive. My mom also was more of a fiction reader, and she was more start a book and then finish that book, but she always was reading too. Oh, I recall another Utopia tale available free online called Maneki Neko. Okay. I might go back through these later and write some of those down because you guys have mentioned a lot. It's both talking about Neil Gaiman. I try not to diss someone's work just because they're unsavory as a person. I remember the good old MySpace days. I remember them. I did not have a MySpace. I was definitely too young, and my parents would not have me go on something like that as a young child because they are good parents. So I remember my mom having a MySpace. Oh, that's my dog. Winnie, what did you hear? Is everything okay? Now there's my other dog. Oh, okay, yeah, we were talking about the audio. Yeah, let's go past that. My brain gets tired when I read for many hours in a day, so sometimes I need a break. So I go on YouTube and BookTube. Yeah, BookTube is the Raf made a video once talking about how BookTube was completely made up and that it's just YouTube because it follows all the same algorithms. Well, he said way more than his video than I'm giving it credit for. But you know what? We call it BookTube, but it is all just YouTube, and it's a good community though. So I like to use the word still, and people know what it means. But yeah, no, I do that sometimes too. I probably shouldn't as much, but I don't know. I feel like I can only read for so long before wanting to take a break. But I can sit down for like 2 hours though. I don't have to take a break every 20 minutes. I'm about 2 hours might be my max in one sitting. What does being an introvert mean? It seems like everyone has their own definition for the term. Oh damn. Um, I think I think what I heard when I was younger, and this could definitely be not true, and people can have a million different definitions, is do you get your energy from being alone or from other people? And I feel like I recharge when I'm alone, and then everyone else uses my energy when I'm with them. It doesn't mean that I'm quiet, because if I'm opinionated on something, I can talk for a while, as you can all see here. But I definitely do have to like go back and be in a cave for a period of time to recharge and come back to everyone else. So I guess that is how I view being an introvert. Also, like I was forced to take that Myers Briggs test for school and work several times in several different situations, and I always got the I. So I guess that was part of my identity of being an introvert might be my results from a personality test. YouTube and happiness, yes, because they have sailing, bookbinding, and book channels plus movie wise. That must be a channel. Yeah, I do love how you can find all of your interests on YouTube, and there are channels out there that aren't just made for quick viral content. And I feel like you probably see that a lot more TikTok and Instagram because if it's short, it has to catch attention, I guess. Maybe I'm oversimplifying that. I don't know. I probably YouTube probably has a net positive impact on my life. Doesn't mean that there's no downsides to it. Thanks for commenting on my response video a couple of weeks back about BookTube repeating itself. I appreciated the comments. Oh yeah, I'm always commenting on BookTube. I love BookTube. If I don't actually always. Sometimes I'll just be a lurker and watch a video and not say anything. But I try to be a little bit active in responding to people's videos. Lovecraft, Howard, and Burroughs shout, hell yeah, it's thin on literary substance, but cool and incendiary to the imagination. That is what YA or entertaining reads in general should be. Intense and dystopian. I just finished A Dry White Season, which is like 1984 meets apartheid in South Africa. Pretty horrid. Interesting. I think I would be interested in that quite a bit. I have read like a biography of like Nelson Mandela, but I don't think I've read a lot of South African inspired fiction, and I could probably correct that. Commenting on the reading making you tired. Totally understand that. I was surprised to find out how tiring writing fiction is. Never expected it. And it even eats energy just thinking on the story. It's a lot of like writing is a lot of work. I really respect people who are sitting there and like writing long pieces of fiction. Even when we talk about the ones that are genre fiction or light and fluffy, like that still takes a lot of work regardless of what you're writing, whether it be of high literary quality or whether it just be something that's meant to be entertaining. It's a lot of work people put into it. I think that's why everyone is so concerned about AI, like was brought up earlier in the conversation. Love Hemingway, love King, love Fitzgerald. See, there's people who are going to come back and defend the authors that were taken down a notch by the comments. As someone that's read all but one of Stephen King's books, about half of them are a bit crap. Okay, yeah, no, I felt like I wasn't crazy. I was like, these are not all equally good. Some of them are just an idea, and it doesn't do very much else for me. But I have not read all but one, so I don't know if I have all of the data like you do. Stephen King's best talent is making his characters very real and vivid. I agree. I mean, I think there's a reason why so many of his books are able to be adapted. They're great ideas, they're great hooks. People are going to be interested in the concepts he comes up with, and there's enough character work in order to make it look good on the screen. So it's not surprising at all that he has a lot of adapted works. It doesn't mean that I always think his novels are like the best of the best. I think that they are good, and some of them are not good. What are your favorite rival booktubers? Maybe a Mount Rushmore? Oh, rival booktubers. I don't know if I find rivals. Um, oh, I mean, who comes up when I just pull up YouTube? I really watch so many people. I mean, Steve Donahue posts every single day, so I watch his videos frequently-ish because he posts every day, which is not something that everyone, including me, can do. I watch a lot of Raf's videos sometimes because he will come up with like discussion topics like I do. I don't know if you guys have watched any of his. He's German, Raf Bluetoxt. I don't know how to say his last name, and he's probably gonna watch this later because he watches most of my videos and tell me I completely butchered that. But that shows up for me because I like his discussion videos. Um, but I mean, I tend to enjoy smaller booktubers most of the time. I'm usually uh, turned off by too much editing. Like, I don't want the video to be about the editing. I want it to be about the topic. I mean, he's showing up here. I have Eric Carl Anderson showing up. I mean, honestly, like BookTube just or YouTube just knows that I want to see like every single BookTube video ever. I really enjoy Chess's Hyperfixating's channel when she's posting, but she's posting a lot less now. I think she was kind of talking about being overwhelmed a little bit. So there's that. Just because of all the feedback you get when you're online, it can be really exhausting after a time. I don't know, there's a lot of great people. I watch a lot of people. Bookish Texan. I like a lot of his reviews of literary fiction. I was there in the beginning when the whole reading red flags thing was a joke. Disappointing to see that people will take it so seriously now. I'm just so disconnected. I mean, I guess I vaguely remember that being a thing. I would rather, whenever I talk about a book, I'd rather talk about the book and what's within the book rather than just come up with things that are red flags across books because oftentimes one book can do something terribly and another book can do it well. So I just don't really engage. Do you have more bookshelves than the ones behind you? I have some more books downstairs, but I got divorced 2 years ago, year and a half ago, and I chose not to take my books with me in my divorce because I didn't have as much space and I just didn't want to worry about it. And I started using my e-reader a lot more. And so no, I don't have tons of books in physical form. I used to on my last booktube channel when I was in my early 20s. I had like the tall bookshelves. I had multiple of them, and I had like the whole setup behind me. And then I was like, if people are only going to watch me because I have a big setup behind me, I don't want those people watching me anyway. So I'm not worried about it. Ender's Game. Is that no? Is that what I said? Yeah, Orson Scott Card. I read those books, which is funny that I was like not confident with the name, and then I read the Bean ones too, the ones that follow like the little guy. He's going through the school. I love the Ender's Game movie. Was good to see Ender's strategies instead of just reading them. Yeah, those can be pretty fun, and those are good for getting people into reading, especially getting younger people into reading. And I think that's a really good use of those books. But they're also pretty engaging. I had fun reading them when I read them probably 10 years ago now. Dog sighting. Did you see the dog? They're just sleeping right now. I thought they'd be barking way more. Just checking in from Germany. Love your channel. Channel critical thinking, anything but shallow. A rarity on YouTube. Thank you. Did you say Winnie? My dog's name is Winnie. Oh yes, her name is Winnie. Um, I like giving my dogs old fashioned names, not because it makes any sense, but I just think it's funny. So her name is Winifred, but we obviously call her Winnie. Yeah. Gotta go do some reading. Great stream. Good night, everyone. Good night. Flowers by Algernon wrecked me, and I was not expecting it to. Yes, you got the introvert extrovert right. Extroverts are energy vampires, introverts are energy batteries that they suck on. Is that how you do it? That's funny. Yeah, no, I have to go into my hole after a while. I want to buy a lot of English language books, but I live in a developing country where books are expensive compared to income. Yeah, no, that's definitely difficult. I obviously am very privileged in that I have a lot of libraries near me and a lot of access to ebooks and audiobooks, and I can download a ton of them for free. And if there's a long wait on an ebook, oftentimes the library will still have the physical book available. So I can't imagine having a hard time getting access to at least common books. I still have a hard time sometimes getting access to really niche or academic books that are like so paywalled. Like there's some books that I've wanted to read recently that would have cost me hundreds of dollars if I just bought them out. And so sometimes Google Books will have excerpts and stuff, but it annoys me how paywalled certain books are, even in a country where you can generally afford most books. Oh, I am an INTJ actually. I don't know if I don't know Myers Briggs or I know that I've looked at like the cognitive functions too, and it does seem to describe me pretty well, but I don't know. I don't know. Rowan Flowers for Algernon is the book I call my favorite book. If I'm going to choose a book, INTJ is me too. Lol, I thought we were rare. I think that's what the internet says, but who knows? Maybe they all show up in things like this. Who knows? Good morning. Oh, good morning from Shanghai. Good morning. I don't keep the books I've read. I always resell them. Yeah, I've been keeping fewer of the books that I read. I used to keep every single book no matter what, but I've stopped doing that. The subtitle of Ursula K. Le Guin's book, The Dispossessed and Ambiguous Utopia. A way to grade if you are an introvert is how 2020 lockouts affected your life. You know what? I had a great pandemic experience, and I feel for people who didn't, but I I went and stayed. I was young at the time. I went and stayed with my parents in their house. There I was in a room, and I had books around me, and I was teaching. I was a teaching assistant, teaching a couple sections a week for a college course. The instructor taught the first two, and then I taught the third every week for multiple sections. So I still got to talk to people, and I still got to sort of do this sort of, I don't know, discussion based thing, because they had the teaching assistants take smaller sections of like a big course and do the discussion and more individual things. So I still got this a little bit. I was not that impacted by the pandemic. It was a good period for me, but it would have been a much worse if I had a lot of bills and no way to pay them. So I feel for a lot of people, or if you're around people who are toxic and you're forced to stay with them, that would really suck. I understand 100% about recharging alone and other people draining. Yep. No, I don't know who that is, but maybe I should go look. Does making videos on books you read add stress to your reading? I feel the fear to never make a mistake about a book. I've thought about that before, is if you get a detail wrong, people might think that like you didn't actually read the book, or you're not an authority to be talking about the book. And I think I would just rather participate than not at this point. And most comments, most of the time on most YouTube videos are positive. People are generally not going at you. Sometimes they do. I've had someone call me a pick me girl recently. So some people go at you, but I think you just have to learn to not care as much about people who are nitpicking every little thing. I'm very skeptical of the Myers-Briggs test. Even the wiki page says it's largely pseudoscience. It is basically a horoscope and a secular age. Yeah, a lot of people think that. I appreciate it for what it is, and I think that it's an interesting thing to look at, because they like try to talk about cognitive functions and its attachment to Jungian psychology or whatnot. I've looked at it a little bit, but I would not live your life based off of your results on the Myers Briggs test. I think that you can definitely develop everything and become a well rounded person. Make a vid on what? The Myers Briggs test? I don't know. That seems off topic. I definitely prefer King sober and healthy and happy, but his writing was far better when he was abusing every substance he could get his hands on. And I agree, his characters are the best part. You know what? There might be something to the abuse of substances and creativity. Steve posts so many. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, Steve is always posting so many videos, which is why I probably watch him more than other people, because he posts so often. But I watch so many people, like dozens. And if it comes up, I will generally watch it. I don't always comment, but I watch a lot of small booktube. And I will watch larger channels too if I feel like they kind of don't lean into the editing and they're kind of more just focused on their topic. I will totally watch the larger channels. I'm not like against larger channels to be edgy, but anytime I see too much B-roll in the first 20 seconds and I feel like I'm getting whiplash, I click off because I can't handle that. I love Lydia Foxglove. Oh, I love her too. I've actually, in a couple of my videos, I've quoted her and kind of try to continue a discussion she started. So I like her. I think she's adorable. She's kind of, I guess I don't know if I would call her booktube, but she's definitely booktube adjacent. She kind of talks about the creative life and being an author and things people need to consider for that life. She's even done some like budgeting videos. I've watched a lot of them. Yes, he is, because Raph Blue Talks. I don't know how to say. I don't know how to say that. I'm so sorry. I watch his videos. He is so passionate about the topics he talks about, and you know that he's always thought about something before. Like, even if I don't agree with him, which sometimes I kind of laugh and I'm like, I don't agree with that. But even if I don't agree with him, I love the passion he brings into the discussion, and how much reading he does to try to inform himself on the topic he's talking about. He also does book reviews a lot too, so for that too. But he is a real one. Good night. It's only 6:30 here, but I know that it's really late. Read is great. I've only watched a couple of his videos, but I like reread. Two readers it may concern is very good. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one before. I have seen read. I like the booktuber Thomas Howell. Okay, yeah, I actually did a live stream with him. The audio is terrible, so don't watch it, but I like him. I like that he's laid back and cares about the substance of a book, quality over quantity. I definitely think he is really good at using his real life profession and making his videos have a certain casual feeling, slow vibe. I think he's like a wedding photographer or something in real life, or does wedding videos or things like that. So he's really good at creating an atmosphere. Hello, glad I got to jump on. I enjoy King, but I agree it depends on the book. I think it's hard to be universally great. Yes, I agree. And you know what? I don't think anyone ever does is good. That's why when someone asked me earlier who is a insta buy author, I can't like that's writing right now. I can't think of one because every author where I've read more than 3 books, they have a hit and a miss. So I think that maybe calling Stephen King good sometimes, bad sometimes is not even that unique. It's just normal. I liked the Substack note on Utopia. I'm surprised how closed off to the idea I was because of my education. Yeah. And I would recommend. I mean, it's expensive because it came from this thing and this thing I pay for. Um, I would recommend the original opinion piece on it, which is this is Brick, a literary journal, winter 2026, and the piece itself focused on the Black utopic, especially the civil rights movement, and some of the artists and speakers who kind of and authors that brought the idea of utopia into moving forward in a social movement, which I thought was really interesting, but also talks about it more in general too. It was good. I don't feel like I can do justice to it because I'm just talking off the cuff, but it was good. Currently reading, I am reading the book that I said I would read to make a review for because I haven't actually read it yet. Oh my gosh, why do I not remember the names of things I'm reading? Jamaica Inn, Daphne du Maurier. I will have a review up for that next week at some point. I like it so far. There's a lot of interesting things that we can talk about with it, so we will. If you want to do that with me, you can read it too. But the book reviews I always put up, I don't like doing spoiler-free ones because I don't think like you say anything in those. So it's always if you either want to watch me talk about a book that you haven't read where I bring out ideas with actual quotes and talk about the main concepts. If you find that entertaining, cool. But if you don't want spoilers, you can just skip them. I'm putting them on my channel because I like the idea of more real book discussions existing on YouTube, and I will do one for that book. Leaving all your books behind in a divorce, I couldn't leave my book collection behind like that. Fair enough, but I don't know. I'm not attached to stuff as much as you might, as much as maybe most people are. I move on, I guess. It's funny because so many people have said in the past that reading books and collecting books are different hobbies, and I guess that proves it. I'm a big book reader, but if I lose half my collection, I'm like whatever. Or in this case, I was like probably 3/4, 4/5. Like whatever. Life moves on. I'll buy more books and read more books, and it's okay. There's a lot of people I know that have downsized just to live more, I guess, financially free, for lack of a better term, and it can be a good thing sometimes. If you have less space and less books, but you have a lot more security, then you get to be more comfortable while reading those books and buying new books. Try Project Gutenberg. Oh, that was a great suggestion for getting books and not having to pay a lot for them online. You can definitely find a lot of books on Project Gutenberg and anything that's in the public domain, which a lot of great books are at this point. So, great suggestion for people who have a hard time affording books. And there's a lot you can read on there before you run out. Academic books can cost an arm and a leg. I know. And, it's just like I'm just a curious person at this point. I'm not really an academic. I have a normal person job. So it makes me upset sometimes when it's like you have curious people who are happy to teach themselves random topics, but without my school login, I can't get them. Like when I had a school login, I'd be reading stuff all the time that was just out there and weird and just going down rabbit holes. But now when I don't have a school login, sometimes you'll find something that you really want to read the entire thing, but you can only get certain excerpts and certain amounts before it costs like $200, which is not worth it for anything. Oh my gosh, The Flowers of Algernon is the best book ever. Yes, it crushed me too, and I was also surprised since I'm not an emotional person. That is something I should probably read. This is a very famous book, which I've heard of it a million times. I'm gonna keep the glass bead game up because that sounded really good, but I'm going to remind myself what this is. Oh, now you can see the glow of my face. Okay, maybe I'll read that and review that in the future as well, but I'm gonna get the glow off of my face. Oh, no, that didn't work. Oh, it's all on my face. Okay, whatever. ENTJ here, but I remember the E just barely edged out the I. I think for people who care about Myers-Briggs, those are similar anyway, because yeah, I go down rabbit holes about everything. Here's the thing. So I think that like what they say for the cognitive function stacks is that it's basically the same but switched like location. I don't know. And I'm really grateful I can find books for my library. COVID took half my high school years. That's so tough. I think it only worked out for me because I was a teaching assistant at the time, and my job did not require me to really be in person. And I was just at school learning stuff. I don't know. It could have been so much worse. It was tough teaching right on the tailwind of the pandemic, though. INFJ here. I didn't know that we were going to get into Myers Briggs here. The pandemic was amazing, but it sucks that extrovert people seem to forget how to socialize effectively. Huh. You'll have to let me know what you mean there. Women on BookTube tend to get worse comments more often than men. You know what's funny is some of the comments I get that are mean are from women, which is weird. I have gotten a couple like, red pill men, way far gone stuff, but that stuff I just kind of laugh at. And I don't know if I should talk about this publicly, but you do have the ability to just never let someone comment on your channel again. And if it's way too out there, I will use it. I like discussion, I like debate, and you can disagree with me, but you can't, I don't know, say something extreme that sounds like it came out of the mouth of Andrew Tate. I don't need that in my life. My library has a bad selection or shit selection. Luckily, I'll be moving soon. I hope my new library is better than my current one. I have a great library, and I have one that I can walk to if I really want to. It's within walking distance, and I have two others that are within like 10 minutes of driving. I am in a great setup here. So maybe you'll have a great setup wherever you're going to. I work with kids. I have never seen so many kids smile for days on end once they were able to remove their masks. One thing I will never forget, all teeth overjoyed. My mom's a teacher, had the exact same experience. In fact, she was supposed to do jury duty the day that the kids were going back to school, and she got out of it by talking about how excited the kids were going to be to have their class in person and be able to meet everyone that they were doing school with in person. Authority in literature is overrated. I think it's great when people are passionate and have so much to share about the books they read and enjoy. I agree too. I don't If you have an authority, I think it should be earned. It shouldn't just be given because you read certain books or follow certain rules, but maybe that's just me being a little pragmatic. What was amazing is I had an excuse to not go out with the pandemic. You know what? Like I was not as impacted as some people, and I think that probably says something about how happy I could be by myself in a room reading books. Thank you for the stream. I had a bad week and this made me smile. Appreciate videos and your efforts. You're welcome. Thank you. I started a BookTube newsletter and found your channel. Great work. Oh, thank you. Damn. We still have quite a few comments. How long have we been going? 1 hour and 38 minutes. I mean, I got nothing to do. I could finish this out. Good night. It's only 9:30 Eastern unless you are in Europe. it's a it's 6:40 Pacific. 9:30 is a great time for bed. I will probably be going to bed. I don't know. Tonight I might stay up a little bit. Who knows? I might work more on my book I'm reading because it's actually pretty good. I like Brian Lee Durfee. He has a #1 television program in the history of the and he has the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. Universally great Umberto Eco, Henry James, Graham Greene, Clarice Lispector. Instabuy author Eliza Clark. Her books are edgy up front, but she's great at writing character psychology. Good to know. Jamaica Inn is on my TBR, so I'm looking forward to your review. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I honestly, when I put up I put up 4 books for my last live stream just to see what people might actually want to see me review, and I did not expect that one to win, and they were all really close, to be honest. I didn't know how popular it was. I didn't know how many people liked it, but I get it now. Like, it's been a pretty immersing read. Definitely a page turner. You want to see what's going to happen. Owning a ton of books is overrated. Like, so expensive now. It takes up a ton of space. To each their own, but damn, I need groceries. I know, I feel the same way. I guess it's just I prefer, if I can, to try to save some money. So if something bad happens, I have it. Um, yeah, I think that there's a lot of comfort and security and not spending all of your money all the time. So I do buy books and I will always buy books, but I'm in no hurry, as I said in a previous video, to get a huge library. Books are not expensive if you buy used books. That's true. I started going a lot more to my used bookstore that's close, and I have some thrift stores that are close. And if you can sift through things, because there's a lot of stuff in there I don't want to read, but if you can sift through things and find the gems, you can get pretty good prices. But I can imagine a lot of people want to buy some of the popular books that people talk about online, and those can get pretty pricey. And I think that that's okay to sometimes want to read a book that other people are reading so that you can sort of enter a discussion. It's kind of hard to enter a discussion when you're reading all this stuff that no one else has ever heard of, which I found a way around that by talking about books in general and just bringing books into discussions. But I understand why people want to read popular books. The average cost of my books is 70 cents. I always buy used. I'm getting better about letting go of books. I'm downsizing my collection and borrowing from the library more. I like collecting books. I like collecting books. It can even be a shrewd investment. I have bought books for $30 that are now worth $900. It can be. I don't know if I have an eye for it. I got divorced during the pandemic and left a lot of books and other things behind. It's good to lighten your load when starting over. I agree. Today, you have organized access to the collective knowledge of humanity in AI. As long as you can verify. I think when I've used AI, that might be my favorite activity, is verifying what it's making up, because it makes quite a bit up still, especially on topics that aren't really well researched and not that many people have talked about. It makes a lot of stuff up still. Would I want to use AI for research if it got to the point where it was reliable? If it was truly reliable, maybe, and it didn't take up too many resources. I guess I just don't trust it yet. Yes, JSTOR is $20 a month. Is that it? That might be worth it. I kept seeing something like it's available through your public library, and my library was like, "Oh yeah, we do it," but I couldn't figure it out. And there's a little bit of laziness in these projects sometimes. If I'm curious about something but not curious enough to figure out how to get the book for hours, I give up. Is that what they mean by a glow up? I love thrift books and Blackwell's. Free shipping to the U.S. Blackwell's. No thrift books. I don't know if I know Blackwell's. Great chat, Allison. Thanks for going live. I need to go. Nice. See you later. You might like Vanessa Gamu. 2 other small channels I like are German called Bookish Franzi, and English one called Jezbla Revieweth. I definitely don't know how that's pronounced. It's almost perfect edition. Glorious. I don't know what that's about. Banning Andrew Tate clones is fine policy. Good for you. I know. I guess there's. I mean, I have a lot of libertarians in my life, like a lot of family members, a lot of people who are just like freedom of speech and all of that stuff, and I value it and I value discussion, but there has to be a line. I don't need someone personally attacking me on my YouTube channel. A Novel Perspective is an interesting small channel, but he barely posts. I'll look at that. Good night. Good night. Oh, it looks like we're about to end this as well, because I will end it as soon as I get to the bottom of here, because I have been talking for an hour and 43 minutes, and as we all figured out, I am an introvert. Graham Greene's books, The Quiet Man, has one of the all-time great last lines. I love Jamaica Inn. I'm liking it so far too. I'm only about a quarter into it because I just started reading it, but I think I'll probably finish it today or tomorrow. Maybe not today, because I only have so much time left, and I don't want to be tired. Percy! Oh no. Percy. Percival. It's okay. There's a dog in the backyard. Sounds good. I think I'll move Jamaica Inn up on the TBR then and read it this year. It has been on my TBR for many years now, and when you finish it, you can watch my video that I'm going to make. That's the thing about book reviews, right? Is they're there forever. I'm having trouble with the end of The Affair. I love the narrative voice, but feel like I'm missing the plot and subtleties. If I want a new book, I just go to the library. I'm getting closer to that. The Graham Greene book is The Quiet American. My bad. AI proves the theory garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, I mean, if we think about everything the AI was trained on, it's not all. It's like that's why sometimes if in the past when I've experimented with it, is you try to be like, where did you learn that? And then it gives you no sources or weird sources, and you still have to have a little bit of understanding of what you're getting back. And I think that people not having that would be concerning. Love the doggos. I love them too. They are barking a lot right now. They are probably done with this live stream, and I guess we will finish this off as well. Thank you for coming and spending the last hour and 45 minutes with me. Hopefully, this was a little bit entertaining. Yes. Goodbye. Good night. Goodbye. Yeah, we'll end with that. We'll end with the best way to get new books is to make friends with authors. That is true.